just facing the questions about that, you know, and you're over 70 now.
Yeah.
It's really humbling. Okay.
It is humbling. You're absolutely right.
There's no messing around anymore.
To remind you of your
Okay. And I got to get those minutes up. Are you kidding? You really would do that? Okay. All right, I will. James is driving back. He started after golf on his way back from Myrtle Beach.
oh, nice.
There you go. Sit.
Julie's in Florida this week.
Yeah, that's good.
Did I mention I hate these chairs?
No, just friends. Girl she went to high school with. Friends forever.
Oh, that's so nice.
I've never had to fight with a chair so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna wait.
I have to know what this is under my seat.
Yeah, that, I don't
What
know.
on earth is that thing?
That's been there since last week.
Thank you so much.
That's Patrick's avatar.
Thank you so much.
There you go, Mike.
What is
I
that?
have no idea.
Is that a sippy cup?
It's got a liquid in it.
Patrick's replacement.
Well,
I'm trying to remember those new phrases.
okay, it's 4:30. I'm
Absolutely nothing
gonna
wrong with
call to order the Governance Strategy and City Operations Committee meeting.
Councilor Armstrong?
Here.
Councilman McFarland? Mayor Reed?
All right, the first item on the agenda, are there any persons who want to come forward and address items on the committee agenda? Seeing none, do you want to grab an agenda outside the door? Okay, I'll wait for you. Which number is the back cover? Anyway.
Number 253.
You can come forward, Kim, if you want to speak. Number 8, item number 8 you'll be addressing, yes. Okay, you can speak about your
I
event.
thought it would wait till number 8. Okay,
No.
so just do my spiel on what it is.
Sure.
So on May 18th, we want to use the farmer's market in conjunction with the farmer's market group. We've already talked about the project with them, that we want to block off the area of the parking lot that is closest to the parking garage, so it's not a through traffic area that people could stop beforehand and get rerouted easily.
So the south end of the lot.
I believe so, I'm really bad with directions, but yeah, like parking garage, the only parking garage. So our goal for the event is to raise awareness, especially in the downtown Plattsburgh area, about bike safety. We're going to be on Empire State Trail in just a few years. I think it's going up 2020, so from Montreal to New York City will be available on Bike Path, curated by the state of New York. So I think there's a lot of stuff to be done in the area about how to signal, where to ride, should you be on the sidewalk, how do you ride in the road? So we're going to provide a lot of those activities along with a lot of other groups locally. Town of Plattsburgh, hopefully City of Plattsburgh be on board.
And this isn't the first time this has been done. It's been
Nope, this
done.
is the second time. The first time was at the Town of Plattsburgh offices on Baker Road. Any other questions?
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks.
I'm wondering if we might want to hear, anybody want to hear from Penny Clute, who's here with the working group? Would you mind coming forward now?
Samuel de Champlain.
Yes.
We.
Well, we presented, everybody else is iced in, so Pastor Huth wanted to be sure I was coming, but last couple weeks ago, January 17th, I think we gave a slideshow presentation of our proposal and the reason for it, to install an educational panel. And I appreciate that Councilor Armstrong has put a resolution on today to allow that. Are there any questions? Or?
Yeah, Rochelle, sorry Penny, but Rochelle, I know I saw an email exchange where you asked Public Works to kind of weigh in as far as
Yeah, I met
Where-
with Public Works
where it would be located and so on.
Monday, and I guess we could take the opportunity to just talk about placement today. Their idea, as you can see in the slide that, thank you, Beth Carlin, for providing for us, was that you would want to view the panel and be able to look up at the monuments at the same time. So about where, maybe just a tiny bit further down from where that pedestrian is, there would be, the panel would be placed there, in the green space, so that you could read and look up. Oh, no, I think, yeah, I don't think so. There had been a question, they had gotten, because of the content that you had provided to us about what would appear on the panel, they had wondered whether more than one panel would be needed, but you say it's all going to be incorporated into one.
It will all be in one,
Right.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I spent
Yes.
months paring it down to 250 words, so.
Very
And what
good.
was the size again, Penny, of the panel?
Oh, boy.
42 by
Seemed like it was
24?
40 by,
42 by 24? Does that sound right?
that sounds
The-
about
Oh,
right.
okay, yeah,
I
that's,
did bring some of my files with me, but it's,
no, that's,
yeah, it's larger.
it's not a huge,
No, and there are others around the city. that are
Right,
the same.
are they,
Yeah,
would
yeah,
you
no, I
say it's
just-
comparable to the ones that are on display near the gazebo on the beach?
or the health trail over
Those
by
are
Wilcox
bigger, I
Dock.
think.
Those are bigger?
Those are old ones, the ones that look awful, frankly.
Yeah, right, well,
Yeah.
they've deteriorated.
Like
No.
over the walking trail by Wilcox Dock, I think there are a few over that.
There's actually, there's one or two on Brinker, there's one on Margaret Street in front of the old federal building, and one on Brinkerhoff in front of the Presbyterian Church. I think it's that size.
Okay,
They're
that's
the
fine. No, I
more
just,
modern ones, and it'll be both in English and French, the same text and photographs, and I believe the logo of the Lake Champlain Basin Program. I think they do the design work, so I think their logo goes on it,
Right.
which is great. It shows the route.
I appreciated the
from
fact that there was going to be attention to making the design of the panel consistent with that which already is around
Yes.
town.
Quebec. Right, it's not just a random
Yes.
different thing.
And at that time too, we discussed with DPW, I had asked them for an estimate for approximately what the installation, and I'm not sure how to read this, but they came up with $1,000. I wish there were
That they
somebody.
said was installation and maintenance.
And maintenance, yeah,
It's number 6.
yeah. So,
So I don't know.
okay. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you all.
thank you. Penny.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
work. Any other persons wanting to come forward and speak to the committee? All right, seeing none, I will go on. Reports from the department representatives and discussion with counselors. We've hopefully had a chance to read everything that was sent to us. Are there any questions regarding those? Okay, and I do want to thank Director Miller for the thorough report that he presented. Okay, so are we ready to go on with the agenda items?
Just on my valuation form, I submitted that to you all
Yes.
about a year and a half ago, and we really haven't put it in place yet. I wanted to do that back with the employee handbook. Send it out to my managers that report to me, that would they be completing this, and then any managers that report to them, they'd be doing their exercises with their managers, and then we'd have a one-on-one meeting and discuss goal setting and all that kind of stuff. We'll put that in place as soon as we can.
How do they feel about it? How do they feel about
We
the
talked
program?
about during the department meeting, they'd seen it before, they asked me to send it around again, to refresh their memory. Haven't received any feedback from any of them since I sent it out around again today. We discussed it earlier, so.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy process. And the extent to which you collaborate on goals, I think is really a good thing. Okay, let's go on to the agenda items. Number 1, request from Director of Community Development, Matthew Miller, that Lakeview Catering of Saranac Lake to provide food and alcohol during the 2019 bridal show. Insurance proof is required and alcohol will be served, therefore,
I guess I'm
New
kind
York
of
State
confused.
liquor.
Is this,
What?
it's being held at City Hall? Why we're not sponsoring it?
No, it's being held at the Craig Center. The
Okay.
council approved the bridal show.
Right,
a few
okay,
months ago.
that,
This
yes.
is-
No, that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
The way it's worded, it seems like we're sponsoring the bridal show.
Okay.
Number 2, request from Sylvia Parrott, the Plattsburgh High School Community School Organization, to use the auditorium on April 27th, 2019 to host a live jazz performance with a catered dinner and dancing. Insurance proof is required, etc. Any questions?
Is it open to everybody or just school students? I noticed alcohol was being sold.
It's not, it's open, the high school students are doing the job,
The jet, but
portion
it's
of it, but it's open.
public.
Nice event,
Yeah.
you have a chance
It
to
is a
go.
very nice event.
3, request that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with Reynolds Boat Northern Bass Tournaments and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to host a bass tournament on August 10th, 2019. Questions? You just chime in. Request that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with FLW and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to host a TH Marine and FLW Bass Fishing League event on July 13th, 2019.
And these all take place down at the waterfront, right?
Yes.
We're trying to get as many of these to be done at, down Harborside. Sometimes they're done at the beach or Wilcox dock, but, we're trying to.
Depends on
mainstream as
access
much.
levels and water levels and where they get the boats now.
Yeah.
And isn't there, well, I was thinking from a trailering standpoint, isn't there just as much parking at Wilcox across the street as there is,
Mm-hmm.
And they end up using both facilities for all these events, actually.
Number 5, request that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with East Coast Watercross LLC and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to hold an event July 27th through 28th, 2019. There will be overtime costs of approximately $1,153 for ambulance and EMT staff.
That's the jet ski event, again.
It is.
That was the same one we did last
Chamber.
year.
Right, and will they reimburse us for the,
No, that
The
was one
ambulance
thing
and
we were trying
EMT?
to negotiate. The chamber actually pays them, I think, $20,000 to come each year, and they felt that it would be appropriate for the city to offset these costs as a kind of a co-share of the expenses.
Does the beach make more money during these events?
Yeah, because.
do we charge admission for
Yeah.
that at the beach?
For
this
spectators,
event?
yeah, not for the teams and their support crews, but for spectators, yes.
It was like $8 a ticket last year, right?
7 or 8, yeah.
Is it's per car load though, right?
Yeah,
Is
per
it-
car.
Does it more than offset the $1,153 for ambulance and EMT staff?
I don't have those figures in front of me. I would expect it's close, given the crowd that we saw last year.
But city and town residents are free of charge, correct? I think that was the issue that came, wasn't there an issue last year with that where some people are saying, how come they're getting in free and we're not?
Yeah, there was an issue with that, and we clarified with the folks who work at the beach gate, so.
I think we might probably, as it gets closer in any of the publicity material or press releases that are distributed, kind of, I think it might be a good idea to make that clear.
Get ahead of that, yep, yep.
Good idea. 6, request from Counselor Armstrong.
Can I make a motion to waive the reading on this?
I want to read it.
Okay.
Well, maybe we could choose to read it during the meeting.
Let's
That
read
would
it
be
now,
okay.
then.
Okay. I think it's an important statement to make about our intention to do it. That's why I want to read it, Pat. I
We're on
mean, it is
salary,
long.
Patrick.
By all means.
Okay. Whereas Samuel D. Champlain and the Native peoples both have key roles in our history, much of it little known and some inaccurately described. And whereas the Samuel D. Champlain Monument statue representation and its plaque's description prompt different reactions today than they did when installed in 1912. And whereas the Samuel D. Champlain Monument Working Group has asked the Common Council's permission to install an educational panel on city property in the park near Samuel D. Champlain Monument, giving context to it and explaining misconceptions. And whereas the Lake Champlain Basin Program has been consulted regarding the panel's design, ensuring that it will be consistent with other historic signage. And whereas the group will find private sources for the approximate $1,400 needed to have the panel and frame manufactured and delivered. And whereas upon receiving this gift offered by the working group and in the light of the educational and cultural benefits provided, the City of Plattsburgh Common Council commits to installing and maintaining the educational panel, and therefore, be it resolved, according to a request by Councilor Armstrong, that the City of Plattsburgh Common Council authorizes the installation and maintenance of said educational panel in the Samuel D. Champlain Monument Park near the Champlain Monument in a location recommended and constructed by the City Department of Public Works for an estimated cost of $1,000 paid for from the general fund. 7, request from the, there's that. Okay, any questions? We went over the placement, Patrick, I believe, before you came, around where that pedestrian is.
Cool, I'm sure it's a great placement.
Thank you. All right. Then 7, request from the Plattsburgh Farmers Market group to manage the farmers market for the 2019 market season from May 11th to October 12th, 2019. Signed licenses, agreement fee, and insurance proof is required. Request from Plattsburgh Bike Rodeo event on Saturday, May 17th, 2019 in the Dirk Street parking lot. Oh my gosh. Requesting to block off 20 parking spaces from Friday, May 17th through 18th, 2019. Insurance certificate is required.
It's 70 parking spaces.
70 is on my paper.
What did I say?
I think you said 20.
20.
I did?
Yeah,
My
70.
gosh.
You only missed it by 50.
No.
Not bad.
Okay. 9, the mayor hands down the reappointment of Commissioner of the Plattsburgh Housing Authority Board to Shirley O'Connell effective April 6, 2019, dang it, to April 6, 2024. 10, the mayor hands down the appointment of Commissioner of the Plattsburgh Housing Authority Board to Amy Bond, February 2019 to April 6, 2020. Request from City Clerk Sylvia Parrott to approve the 2019 street drives. Any comments?
How many
Sometimes
are
we
there?
have them.
There's a total of 10 items signed up. I've got one pending for the date's already been taken, so there's 4 additional slots.
These are basically panhandlers in the middle of the street, right?
Well, they're nonprofits that set up a corner of Margaret when you're coming into the city. So that's, and then evening for inside.
I know, Sylvia, I know there was some residents that were upset that with the coin drives that were permitted in those areas, but yet there's one that's held downtown right out in front here, and that's,
Yeah, the one that's right in front.
That's not really one of, that's a separate one that has
Okay.
nothing to do with the street drive.
So, yeah,
okay.
that one's
But is
concerning
that,
to me.
that's not part of this,
That's
okay.
not part of this.
Okay. 13, resolution authorizing the formation and corporation of the Lake City Land Bank Corporation.
I think we missed number 12, but.
Oh, we did? Oh, shoot. Okay, 12. Thank you. Request from Promotions and Special Events Coordinator Tara Powers to hold the City of Plattsburgh's Field Day event on the Oval Field on April 27th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Rain date, May 11th. Alcohol will be served, therefore New York State liquor documentation is required.
Is that a new event, Matt? I don't.
Yes. It's being planned in place of the Irish Festival because of a series of years where there was declining attendance, mostly due to poor weather in March outside here.
I think
So
that's a
we're
good plan.
looking for new events to take its place.
So what happens at a field day? So like sack races and stuff like that?
I can't speak to the details. I have Tara's email that she sent with
Wheelbarrow races.
you the details.
I'm thinking of elementary school.
I like sack races.
Sure, if there's alcohol, sounds like a lot of
I
fun.
used to like them, I mean. I don't know if I like them
Field on
now.
April 27th, Plattsburgh Hunger Games is a movie-themed adult field day where teams will compete in games on an extreme obstacle course.
Oh my God.
We'll be partnering with Behavioral Health Services North on marketing. Their annual Kids Carnival will take place earlier that day in the Rec Center gym. In addition to gaming activities, there will be an area to promote nutrition and other health issues. Participants will be encouraged to bring non-perishable foodstuffs to donate to local food banks. There will be opening ceremonies, music, and we're requesting a beer tent to feature local breweries. She's discussed all the permitting issues with the NYS Liquor Authority, Attorney Schneller, and City Clerk Parrott. I've also discussed security with Chief Ritter, and everybody seems to be in agreement that this is something we can and should do. Alcohol will not be permitted beyond the secured area. IDs will be required for bracelet entry, and there will be professional security to control access and enforce our right to cut someone off. All participants will be required to sign a standard sports activity waiver, and this event will replace the Irish Festival due to the fact that attendance has dropped sharply over the years due to poor weather.
Extreme games and alcohol, what could go wrong? No, sounds like a wonderful event.
It does.
I remember I tried to go to the Irish Festival last year, it was like way too cold. So it's-
I
Yeah,
went.
It was
I was there.
Yeah.
10 or 15 degrees, the wind chill was about 10 below events.
Yeah.
The band ended early.
I didn't know the guy was playing guitar.
I had 3
over there.
beers and started to do the jig.
Okay, I'm gonna forge on here. 13, resolution authorizing the formation and incorporation of the Lake City Land Bank Corporation. Whereas disinvestment in real property and resulting atrophy can result in a significant amount of vacant and abandoned property in the city of Plattsburgh, and whereas this condition of vacant and abandoned property represents lost revenue to the city of Plattsburgh and imposes large costs ranging from demolition, effects of safety hazards, and spreading deterioration of neighborhoods, including resulting mortgage foreclosures. And whereas the need exists to strengthen and revitalize Plattsburgh's economy by solving the problems of vacant and abandoned property in a coordinated manner, and to foster the development of such property and promote economic growth. And whereas there is an overriding public need to confront the problems caused by vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent properties, to turn these vacant spaces into vibrant places. And whereas land banks are one of the tools that can be utilized by the city of Plattsburgh to facilitate the return of vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent properties to productive use. And whereas the city of Plattsburgh is a foreclosing governmental unit under not-for-profit corporation law, section 1602C, with the city chamberlain serving as an enforcing officer in all areas within the geographic boundaries of the city of Plattsburgh, and when warranted, conducts annual REM tax foreclosures, is that REM tax?
In REM.
In REM foreclosures and real property tax auction. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh supports the formation of a land bank for the benefit of properties located within the City of Plattsburgh and seeks to authorize the filing of an application. Oh my God. Whereas the name Lake City Land Bank Corporation is not used by any other state corporation, and the approval for use of such name will be sought from the New York State Department of Financial Services. And whereas an authorizing resolution is both desirable and necessary to formally submit an application to the state regarding the land bank. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh authorizes the formation and incorporation of the Lake City Land Bank Corporation under the applicable provisions of Article 16 of the Not-for-Profit Corporation Law, and it is further resolved that there shall be 7 initial directors of the corporation, and they shall serve 2-year terms from the date of incorporation unless appointed by virtue of a director's elected public office, in which case it shall run concurrently with the term of that office, whichever is less. The initial directors are Colin Reed, Mayor of the City of Plattsburgh; Eva Schweber, Planner, City of Plattsburgh; Mark Hamilton, Executive Director, Plattsburgh Housing Authority; Amy Bond, Community Developer; Derek Rosenbaum, Appraiser; Ben Clark, Housing Developer; Elizabeth Gibbs, Councilor, Ward 3, City of Plattsburgh. Resolved that the Mayor of the City of Plattsburgh be and hereby is authorized to sign the annexed certificate of incorporation as incorporator, and it is further resolved that this common council agrees to develop procedures whereby the land bank, once incorporated, can select city delinquent tax properties for land bank use prior to the annual tax auction, or to be redeveloped consistent with the goals of the land bank, and is further resolved that this common council, serving as lead agency, hereby finds and determines that this resolution constitutes a type 2 action such that no further environmental review is required, and it is further resolved that this resolution is expressly subject to the approval of the Empire State Development Corporation as required by Section 1603 of the Not-for-Profit Corporation Law, and accordingly the annexed certificate of incorporation shall not be filed with the Secretary of State unless and until it is first approved by the New York State Urban Development Corporation, DBA, the Empire State Development Corporation. Whew, that was long.
Thank you.
You didn't waive the reading. My goodness.
Well, I thought it was important. You'd rather do it now rather than later.
Okay. All right, so what do you think? Do you want to move these items up to the agenda?
I'm not on the committee, but we can't do 8 and 9, or 9 and 10 because those are appointments.
Right, okay.
So we could
Need
do
a motion.
1 through 8 and then 11 and 12.
Okay, a committee member can move that then.
So on the land bank, I know that the city can do it because we're a foreclosing agency.
Mhm.
And these board, I don't think it's a bad idea. These board of directors are certainly impressive. I'm still not exactly sold on why we wouldn't want to team up with the county to do it.
We've offered to also team up with the county. We see a lot of advantages of doing it with the city, perhaps even in addition with the county, because of the pace we'd be able to take care of properties, and we'd be able to ensure more of the revenues generated will stay within the city land bank and foster more city property development.
Does the city have the funding to be able to do this on their own? How would the land bank be funded, I guess?
It's self-sustaining. I would recommend, and this is the subsequent discussion we have, to seed it, to perhaps put something like the chaplain's house that we've been wondering what to do with for a long time into the land bank, allow that to be developed, and then the proceeds from that can then flow and expand outward from there. There's also provision to be able to have a tax revenue, 50% tax revenue flow into the land bank for the first 5 years. And the city or none of the other taxing jurisdictions really sacrifice anything, because ultimately if these properties aren't developed and are abandoned, nothing comes to any entity for many years at a time. So this we actually believe is a way to get tax properties on the tax roll quicker.
And we wouldn't have to give up a portion of our sales tax money.
revenue.
We wouldn't have to give that to the county to become part of a larger financial structure. We would keep it all here, and we can tighten up our laws and our code enforcement and other things to handle empty buildings that are current on taxes, but there's nothing being done. This is one of the things that we had talked about with Joe McMahon. the first thing that would need to happen for us is we would have to demonstrate that we have a need. And since we're our own foreclosing unit, and we don't have any zombie properties the way that other municipalities do, we might not actually qualify as having a need because we're not in the same situation as these other municipalities. So they would benefit, but we probably wouldn't. And it could be years waiting until a property is taken care of. And in the meantime,
And
if
it's our
we.
turn.
Right, and in the meantime, if we formed this ourselves, tightened up the laws and the ordinances, we could take control of the properties within the city and we wouldn't have to wait our turn. And it just seemed to me a better solution for the need that we have. Other municipalities, I think, are going to benefit from a county land bank because their situations are different. But I think that this is a better solution for us.
So in other words, waiting our turn.
I'm sorry, Rochelle, there are some other municipalities, city municipalities, that also have land banks that aren't part of a
Yes.
wide-ranging county.
But I don't
So
think
we
there's any
form
that
a
there's a
pool.
city within a county.
Right, if we were to participate with a county entity, we'd be part of a pool, and isn't it true that then you wait your turn?
Wait your turn.
in-
No, you don't
in order
necessarily
to-
wait your turn, there would be based on need, and I think that's what she was
Right.
addressing earlier.
Right.
And there was just a backdrop, I believe, when Ms. Davis was here talking about it, that the board would decide based on need what property should go, or, but, you know, every municipality would at least get one in 10 years, so no one would have to sit back and never get a property updated.
But 10 years is a long time to wait.
Right, and I think there's such an opportunity for us to take advantage of properties that would be off the tax roll and reintroduce them to the tax roll. I think that's a perfect kind of situation for us.
And I think it works very nicely with other initiatives that we have going on in the city right now. I think this is a very exciting opportunity, actually, in
But-
conjunction with the code enforcement conversations we've been having and the BRI project. And I just see this as another avenue of the way to revitalize properties in the city, going towards our larger goals.
You see it as one aspect of an integration, maybe
I-
with the committee that Mr. Moore was talking about.
With so much of what's going on. And I think it's just an exciting opportunity and we shouldn't let this go by. Because I don't
I
think.
see it as also an opportunity to create more affordable housing.
Yeah, there's another avenue for that, which is the reason why Mark Hamilton is a good fit
Right.
for that.
And I think also we have to bear in mind too that this isn't an absolute either.
No,
It's a-
it doesn't.
Go
It's
through
not
an
a done
approval
deal.
process.
Exactly true.
Do we know if the county is pursuing a land bank?
I think they are, and they've noted in their conversations with us that we're in a very different situation than they are. For the most part, the participants in a potential county land bank are using this as an opportunity to raise buildings that are abandoned. We're trying to use this as primarily an opportunity to rehabilitate and put new buildings back onto the tax roll. It's unlikely in many parts of many municipalities that those buildings, once they're cleared off, the derelict buildings cleared off, anything's gonna be built in its place. But property is such a premium for us that we're in a very different position. We want our land bank to be used to rebuild rather than just take down. And that's something of value that we don't really share with the other municipalities.
And Elizabeth was mentioning that we have some zombie properties, but that aren't necessarily delinquent on taxes.
To be technical, a zombie property is a bank-owned property. Joe helped us identify 15 or so abandoned or underused properties. There's probably many more actual zombie properties that are owned by banks, but since the banks hopefully will try to resell them, we don't even know. There's not a central data bank of zombie properties. Aren't even aware of those. But we would
Zombie
like to.
properties are paying their taxes.
They are, that's right, they're not in arrears, but we would like to approach banks and say, have you got any zombie properties? Would you be willing to put them in the land bank? You might not get 100 cents on the dollar for them, but at least you won't have that responsibility of maintaining them while you hope to sell them. So that might be another cooperative collaboration we could do with this land bank. But we have reiterated to the county that we're also willing to further their land bank. We just also want the opportunity to be able move at our pace in a very different set of needs. We hope they have every success in any way we can do to help them as well. And one final piece, we actually brought this idea to the county about 3 years ago. Mark Hamilton had the initial concept of a land bank. The county wasn't interested then, but we've never been not interested in pursuing this. But now with the number of franchise for land banks in the state opening up more recently, this is an opportune time for us to revisit this idea.
And I don't think we're gonna get another opportunity. That's kind of how,
That's
what I
Kimberly
think.
seemed to suggest,
Not
yeah.
for a while.
and so we have the opportunity. I don't think we should let it go by.
If there's no further discussion on the land bank item, I'd like to entertain a motion to move items 1 through 8 and 11 through 13 to the regular agenda.
So moved.
Okay, second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
I think we do roll call.
Oh, we do roll call, that's right.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Okay, any items of old business? And new business?
Oh, wait, I had something that I wanted to ask, probably
Okay.
under old business.
Sure.
Well, we're on a new business now, so I'll ask that. The beach came up earlier with the wave race thing. And I remember last year we had a very successful beach season. It seemed that the big two complaints were that it opened too late and it closed too early for the season, and that was based on, we were kind of hamstrung into those dates because of the leftover safety plan with the Department of Health. Have we worked on expanding the dates of operation of the beach this year with the Department of Health?
We've looked at moving the open date up to June 1st from where it was last year, June 21st, based on expected staffing costs versus what we can expect from increased entry fees. Offhand, I don't remember what the numbers worked out to, but it's something that we're looking at.
And then what about the end date? Because I remember we got an email from a woman, we closed on Labor Day last year.
Mhm.
And we got an email that I thought was pretty poignant because I think the week after that was incredibly hot. And there was a lot of people patronizing the beach, but the bathrooms weren't open. Some
Right.
people were, urinating on the side of the building or stuff like that. Has there been an effort to keep it open longer?
We haven't looked at expanding the hours on the back end of the season, but we certainly can.
Okay.
You have an idea
And I
of
know also last year we had difficulty in hiring lifeguards.
Mhm.
I just found out this week, actually, there is currently or beginning next week, a new lifeguard licensing course being offered through the college
Okay.
for this semester, so you may want to reach out and touch base and see if,
Yeah, the gentleman who helped us get the beach up and running last year, Brian Bissonette, former recreation superintendent, offered to help us out this year doing the same thing. So I've been in touch with him. Have to have a further discussion about when he would start, but yeah, he did a
but
great job for us last year.
what I'm saying though is that the woman that's offering the classes through the college,
Mhm.
that if we kind of go in and do some preemptive speaking to the students, say, look, you're gonna be certified if you're, would you like to stay around in the area for the summer?
Okay, I hear what
You
you're
have
saying.
a,
Do you have a contact info? for the
Yeah, I
person
can get it
running
to
the
you.
Study, okay, thank you.
I remember one of the challenges, though, that Mr. Miller meets is a lot of the employees are high school students, so they have a hard time starting before graduation and continuing on past Labor Day. So
Yeah.
he'll do his best to try to make that happen, but we can't create an employment base that doesn't exist as
If
well.
you remember at the end of last season, the beach was actually closed for a day because we didn't have sufficient staff because so many of the lifeguards had gone back to school. So it's just something we have to keep in mind when we're doing that.
If the safety plan says stay open to the end of September, we could close before the end of September, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe the safety plan mandates that the beach be open during those days, but I would have to double check the language.
Okay.
Okay, any other business? Old, new, in between? Okay, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes. Begin our work session, and with your indulgence, I'd like to propose an executive session to discuss proposed sale or lease of two particular properties, real properties, which public discussion would affect the value thereof.
So move.
So moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor McFarland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
It was on, it was on.
It was here last week too. I thought it was yours last week.
I didn't see it.
It was on my ground. I was like, I thought it was your water bottle.
Do I need it? Oh, okay. There we go.
And some pictures and some images. Yeah. I hope you like it.
Well, because we had the budget approved in October.
I do want this back tonight. This is, I don't know if you were.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay,
This is
yeah, okay, I got you.
This is the introductory part, our pitch.
So we'll get your New Year's gift sometime next year.
Yeah, proposed text. Guys were there when I had to have.
Oh, yes, turbo.
Yeah, but it's about 6 weeks.
It's short, because he has a.
Yeah.
Well, you know. He has a camping shack.
I think you'll get revenue.
She doesn't Some of us. Oh, yeah.
It's not even 39, the pay.
That's really good, I like that. I'm not gonna sleep.
And then we'll, what we hope to do is images. Probably never does. There's four. One showing.
Oh, I didn't know that, okay. So it's more people thing.
So something to that nature, something similar. They're around.
Well, you don't want to stretch it out too far, because you run into the school districts, Get it out of their hair so they don't.
Champlain and a few friends.
I wonder, that's gonna be
Yeah. And here's our. So one of the issues is,
Right now, yeah.
it's got a very, right, it's not white Indian. Right. They say there's correspondence from the designer.
Walmart, it's a pay rate.
2 years after they installed it. Apparently they're big. And he said, well, we were misled by Champlain's drawing, blaming it on sale. I know. Like there's, it doesn't look like you're getting that. It does look like.
Too bad you can't put all that on the slide.
Fridays.
This is a color print of Matt Champlain actually. He was a very first to learn a lot of first to draw maps of this area and all kinds of public health around. And so this, so he actually did the map first in 1630. And this was, it's really interesting. I found some other black and white ones.
Yeah, the other option is they have lifeguard last year.
It's a little fatter than this map. But if you just need to on the screen. And I don't know where it is. Yeah. You're welcome. Your interest.
It was only that easy. Or maybe swimming your own risk all year long.
I remember seeing something that said, if you're ever feeling useless, all you remember is the lifeguard.
My son is like off the My son was born.
Yeah.
He immediately changed his name to Daniel.
Of course, we decided to
Daniel
do
Woodshop. And now my children are my grandchildren.
Well, actually, if you read the thing, he's done by he gets supervised.
That's serious, I'm sorry. He thinks I made baby back there when he.
Did you get a chance to talk?
No, we don't, we have to fill out a roll.
I deal with everything.
But the pictures, because I don't think they exist anymore. I mean, they're 40 years old. I don't know what value this community has at this point. I think it changes.
Sorry, it's like my building is like, well, I'm
We don't get any. We don't get. The nuclear power plant. By the city of Rochester. Let's see. But, most of that power goes out of state.
Trying to make it as
Yeah, it's definitely regulated. Certain amounts of things that are required.
Sam really wore armor like that. That'll be our next job. It looks like a Spanish conquistador. Thanks.
We're pretty much 97.
Looking at it last time, I haven't seen that. He's certainly good at it. I haven't seen any other. I mean, I have images, but that's. I we thought we might we had to change that. Yeah, right. Winter. It would be a good time to be gone. Yeah, Laura's in Ohio, and they're going to Florida this last 2 weeks of February. And Johnson, no, I'm not sure when they're talking about trip in Europe. Something like that. They went a couple of years ago. Theme Holland. What did they say? And of course, when we dress, right, it was so cold. Yeah, it looks
Most of the buildings were on top of it, so there was only left a few places.
well, some of these, I don't know if it's the one Jim was talking about, so I don't remember if it's the one that Jim and Mark were doing or just some other one he was reading. They're relatively flat, they're not like big buildings.
So chances are
So they go very slowly.
that basement probably, or.
You can be on land. Yeah, you're not on the stage, you can be on land, like on the tow path. It just, yeah, there's lodges most cities are on. Water was the for the new
Yeah, we did. When we do was last time we did this. We did.
Yeah, I heard them scraping last night. And, yeah, so it's more than a chance to. Well, now it looks like it's not gonna get above freezing until about. No, I heard the one.
That's what I heard this morning.
Well, funny thing, they said it was gonna happen about 10 to 11%. It's been getting longer. And but I can hear it was raining again. Oh, freezing again.
It should be freezing the city, we got us all.
When there's 5 o'clock, then it's gonna start. Yeah, that's supposed to get rainy heat. Then I promise the sun is also come next week. Like the last weather after Saturday, so they have about a high wind, so that maybe might blow it dry to a certain degree before it does flash freeze. You throw a ton of salt on it, it doesn't melt, refreeze. Are you trying to replace the house mess? Who's going for that? They can't even get it. Oh, fancy. Or is it Stephanie? Sorry, nobody doesn't hurry.
Yeah, I know, I want to go to it would be complicated. I know, I tried to.
Yeah. Well, I said he was
Well, and you know, I've got a time has passed.
Yeah, I never saw him.
Yeah.
This item.
That's right, that's right.
I don't want that in front of you.
Thank you, Beth. Oh, sorry, honey.
We're returning from an executive session where we discussed proposed sale or lease of 2 particular pieces of real property, the public discussion of which would affect the value thereof, and no decisions were made in that executive session. Are there any other issues you'd like to dispense with in work session before we begin our regular session?
I have some questions. that I'm not sure if I should just wait until it's committee report time to ask, because these are questions related to emails I'm getting from constituents.
Sure.
And they require feedback from the manager. So should I do that now, or
Sure.
should I wait?
Yeah,
Do
go
it
ahead,
now?
please.
Okay. So, Councilor Moore, I think you're the one that got the email about parking, questions about code violations and parking on, and then you, I think you may have forwarded it to me, but I don't remember exactly what it was, so.
Yes, it was parking on the sidewalks, especially in the wintertime when people park across the sidewalk. People have to detour into the street. And it's just something that they had felt was dangerous.
Yes, and wanted to know if it was a code violation, so.
Yeah, I was going around a truck. and almost
It's
busted
gotta be,
myself.
because
It has to be a code violation.
parking on the lawn is a violation
It's
also.
code everywhere in the
Yeah.
city.
Joe, you want to verify that?
I think-
I would actually defer the parking on the sidewalk to the police, but yeah, certainly, you can't park across.
So what should a constituent do in that situation?
Call and register, complaint, and issue a ticket.
To the police department?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Do we have time for one more, or do we?
Please,
I
yeah,
can-
go ahead.
I received a call from a constituent that was very, very concerned about the 5G with Verizon. Number one, they weren't aware, they were upset that there was absolutely positively no notification sent to them that work was going to be done in front of their house on their property, and that there'd be trucks and things on their property. And number two, and probably even more alarming, is that they were very concerned about the health impact of 5G. There's a lot of documentation, and there's actually a YouTube video with testimony from an expert out in Wisconsin that 5G presents some very serious health concerns. And they were wondering, number one, how the city allowed this to happen, and I told them that we really didn't have a say in it. And I believe, Bill, last week you mentioned that it was a Public Service Commission okayed the whole thing, and that,
Probably, yeah, they're a regulated utility like we are.
So they don't need to have permits
But-
from us, they can just go in.
they can just go
basically
in,
do
but the question was, because they were on our line, there are poles that they're using, and that was one of the questions that they posed to me.
They're responsible for their own utility on our pole, we have nothing to do with it.
And we're obliged to rent the poles to them.
I know but again, the other part is that they were on their property, they received no notification. And the health issue is probably is more alarming than,
The only thing I can say is that you have to call Verizon on that. I don't know what the Verizon procedures are, or file a complaint with the Public Service Commission, that's the only two options that are there.
And the 5G that, Bill and I talked about this the other day, there's two types of 5G. The 5G that are on the poles, that's fiber optics. There's another 5G wireless that may have radiation because it uses radio waves, but this isn't that. This is fiber optics running on those lines they're stringing, so I don't
Okay.
think it has the radiation
So-
problems, but they need to take that up with Verizon.
And that would require the transmission through a cell tower.
yes.
The other.
The other 5G.
Yeah, because they're talking
That's-
about with
that's right.
wireless that because of the walls and so on, you'd have to have a cell tower every block, essentially.
So my understanding is they're doing the fiber optics, not the cell tower route for this 5G, but I think your constituent needs to speak with Verizon. I think it's called the Verizon BIOS system that they're
Yeah,
installing.
they're putting it as FiOS.
I have one other issue. Email I received from a constituent about, and I think this may have gone out to all of us, a question about clearing snow from downtown sidewalks. And a woman who wanted to know if it's possible to mark parking on Margaret Clinton and Brinkerhoff as designated parking for persons with disability.
I think that's something that the parking committee will be considering, our new parking regimes.
So this is under consideration with the parking?
And also expanding disability parking downtown, I know is something else on your agenda, if I recall.
Yeah, the incorporation of parking for people with disabilities. That specifically, Elizabeth, I hadn't heard, but if you wanted to forward me the info,
I can.
So let's begin the common council meeting tonight with Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Counselor Armstrong,
Here.
Counselor Kelly,
Here.
Counselor Gibbs,
Here.
Counselor Ensel,
Here.
Counselor McFarland,
Here.
Counselor Moore,
Here.
Just a brief comment. I think many of you shared with me a letter to the editor in the paper today asking for the report, or suggesting there's been very little action on the Webb Island Bridge. I think actually to the contrary, there's been a tremendous amount of action, collaboration and cooperation between a number of different partners, and I'm very optimistic that a very favorable outcome will occur soon. So I just ask everybody to be patient and let this process to continue on for a little while longer, and I really appreciate all the work that the county, the school district, and the city has been investing in this with the help of Senator Little and Assemblyman Jones. So I'm very optimistic despite some of the comments that we once in a while read. Thank you. That's all for today.
resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on January 31st, 2019 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Mueller and seconded by Councilor Gibbs. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payroll for the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending February 6, 2019 in the amount of $94,882.53 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, seconded by Councilor Ensel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You've seen your packet and discussed in committee just previously various reports, but I would like to ask you for any elaborations on your committee work, beginning with governance strategy and city operations. Councilor Armstrong.
Yes, we had a hefty agenda this evening. The most prominent agenda items moved forward were the request to install a panel, interpretive panel, recommended and supported by the Samuel Day Champlain Working Group. And we heard from Penny Clute, who just kind of reiterated her support, her group support, and we hopefully will pass that this evening. And we moved forward a resolution to establish a city land bank. And that's about it.
Thank you. City infrastructure, Councilor Moore.
I just wanted to say that Councilor Gibbs and myself have scheduled meetings to tour the public works facilities, the water facilities, and the wastewater facilities. And at this time, I'd like to make a little apology to Mr. Johnny Jones, who we appointed to the parking committee. I think it was, I misstated that he, in the past, he was working for a security company when I saw him at public events. I just assumed he was a volunteer, but in fact, he was working for a security company. And I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Jones for accepting this important role on the city parking committee, and his willingness to contribute is appreciated by everybody.
Thank you. Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
Well, our next meeting will be in 2 weeks, and I would like to ask Mr. Marks for the next meeting if he could summarize for us the overtime items that have been used this year as part of that regular monthly meeting, and then going forward to do that each month for us. As you know, we passed a resolution earlier to move $100,000 out of overtime and into a contingency fund, and we want to monitor that and make sure that that overtime is being used wisely. I'd also like to ask Mr. Marks if he would share his considerable knowledge with us about about city finance, and maybe, rather than deal just with the numbers, to deal with some concepts going forward, about the tax levy and tax caps and how they work and how they're figured, and I think that would be helpful to us also.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Public safety, Counselor Gibbs.
Well, we have some, hopefully some meetings coming up where we're going to be talking about some exciting things. And Counselor Ensel and Counselor Moore actually had a very important meeting this week, so I'll let them speak on that.
Sure. Councilor Moore and I actually met on Monday with representatives, and Chief Ritter as well, met with representatives of the college, both their university police and student affairs office, and as well as a representative from the president's office. And I came away thinking it was a very productive meeting. We discussed a number of items regarding the center city and behaviors and patrolling and what we can do and can't do. And ultimately, we agreed to work together, possibly formulate a committee where there'd be members from both sides as well as some residents to look very strongly at this issue. We also were given copies of a report that a commission put together 12 years ago now that had a number of recommendations. And Councilor Moore and I shared my copy with Corporation Counsel, and we're going to look through those recommendations and then take it from there. I don't know, Jeff, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I felt they were willing to be very cooperative, the college, with us to help us, and that commission report that they had a lot of really good ideas. I think we need to investigate if all of them were implemented, or at least some of them, but I was very happy with the results of the meeting. Very productive.
And I really applaud your work on this. This is something that also dovetails in our desire to rehabilitate more properties, create more value. You've heard us talk about the broken windows philosophy. We can take care of our neighborhoods. We also, that has ramifications in lowering the rate of crime, et cetera. So I think that all this is incredibly timely, and I'm really appreciative of all the work that
One thing too that I would just like to add, and this is actually for the general public and for everyone, if you see an activity or something going on, it's absolutely essential that it gets reported, because unless it gets reported and there's a record of it, it's very difficult for law enforcement or the college to do anything about it.
That's a good point. Thank you. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Ansel.
No report at this time.
And MLD, Floor President, Councilor McFarland.
Well, we just had our monthly report last week, so at this time I have no updates. That's about it.
Resolved, the reports as listed are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Kelly and second by Councilor Armstrong. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No correspondences or recommendations from boards at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills ordered by the Common Council for the week ending February 8, 2019, in the amount of $764,120.89 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Ansel, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. At this point in the meeting, those of you who picked up an agenda, we have public comments for agenda items only. This time there will be another public comment period at the end of the meeting for other issues of mutual concern. So please come forward. If there's multiple people on one side or the other of a particular issue, we ask you to have no more than 2 spokespersons. Please come forward.
My name is Lil Cassidy. I work with Animal Rescue and Welfare Services. I live in the city of Plattsburgh at 20 St. John Street. The first thing I guess I'd like, before I start any comments, I just want to apologize. I apparently didn't understand in terms of the 2017 allocation of $1,500. I did come and actually report to the Common Council the numbers that we had done and that we had expended the money, but I gather in hindsight that I was supposed to give you a written report. I have one which I can turn over to whoever needs it in order to complete that. I'm here tonight just talking about the topic that, in my memory, we've discussed 5 times. It was discussed when we asked for the resolution to be able to do trap, neuter, return and trap, neuter, adopt in 2017 when we requested the money, in 2018 when we requested the money, and again when the proposed local ordinance regarding feeding guidelines was discussed. So I guess at this point, I think maybe it's time that we just agree that trap, neuter, return is not the total answer for the problem. I don't think we've ever thought that it was, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing the adopt portion of it. But it definitely is having an impact. I can tell you that in 2018, we did 55 trap, neuter returns. In addition to that, we took, well, I should say, including that, we took 151 cats off the street or out of the city. It has to have some sort of impact on city life, on the lives of the cats. The cats are either adopted out, or there are some that remain in the network, still looking for homes, but still certainly adoptable. I know that it seems like we want to look at a lot of national statistics, and I see them, but I see national statistics that also say, for instance, in Idaho Falls, and where an animal shelter reduced the number of euthanasias from 71% in 2015 to 17% in 2018, with the hope that by the end of 2020, it will be 0. So this was done strictly with a grant that came from Best Friends, and the amount of $15,000. They're continuing on their own with private donations and making a difference. I've spoken with other vets, or we have, that share at least part of the opinion that trap, neuter, return does not work in total, but for the most part, everyone feels that taking the step forward of spaying or neutering stops future population from existing, basically. I don't think it's going to go away on its own, and we're trying desperately to help. I would appreciate the money, but if the city feels that they can't, we'll still go on doing it on our own. The suggestion was made that by offering trap, neuter, return, that we may be giving owners of cats the idea that they can just dump a cat elsewhere and that someone else will take care of it. I think that that does exist, but I think that it's going to exist whether we're there or not. We just recently got a call about a cat that was abandoned in an apartment after they were evicted. We took the cat in. The police were contacted, but to my knowledge, there's nothing that we have been able to find out that was done. So, I don't know, I guess given all of that, I just feel like it might be time not to make the decision on whether trap, neuter, return is the total answer, but whether it's a part of a solution for the city, for the cats that live here, for the people that need help. We've taken cats in, they're strays. We've taken cats in that were born outside. We've taken cats in that were abandoned. We've taken in and helped people who want to have the ability to have an animal in their home, but can't afford to have it done, and we've helped them in that regard. So whatever you decide, we'll work. And in terms of giving reports, I don't know if you want reports even if we're not getting the money? Is that what you're thinking? Just so I leave here knowing.
I think it's if we grant the money, we wanted quarterly reports. I think that was the last.
If you grant the money, we've already expended more than 3,000 we've done 55.
But I think we were looking for quarterly reports as far as how the numbers
Impact
and
on
how
the
the money
overall-
was expended.
And impact on the overall populations, I
Right.
think, was part of what was
Right.
requested.
Okay, I mean, does anyone have an identification on the entire population? Because I don't.
Well, I just thought
I
that
mean, I
that was
can't- I
something
can't
you
tell
kept
you
track
how many-
of.
Right.
Well, provide us what you
But-
can, and I can share that with the
Yeah.
council.
But I think we'd also would definitely want to see the financial piece of it too, with what the money was going
How
to.
it broke down
Right.
financially.
Sure. I mean, as I said, I did do that in 2017 and apparently just didn't give it to the clerk, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lil.
Thank you.
Any other individuals, please come forward.
Denise Nephew, Ward 2, city resident. First of all, I want to apologize to Lil Cassidy. It was not my intention to put her through all this again. After the discussion last year, if there was money left, they were going to look at giving it to us. So I do apologize to her for anything that she's gone through. Another thing I'd like to I'm going to read into the record on Facebook, just a comment about TNR. I'm wondering if Councilor Armstrong is aware of the number of cats that we, meaning my two sons and myself, have cared for in Councilor Armstrong's neighborhood. As Seton Catholic students, they were required to perform hours of community volunteer service. My boys saw a need to help several feral cats that would come into our yard from the area where the base hospital once was. I cannot begin to tell you a dollar amount that was put into TNR with this colony. The boys built shelters, fed, watered, kept an eye out for sick or injured cats. Pregnant females were kept in our garage until the kittens were born, weaned, fostered, and adopted out, and moms were spayed. Most of the moms became docile enough to be home. Those that we didn't returned to the colony. We started this in 2012. One of my sons won a school award for having over 1,000 hours of service in this feral colony that existed in Lake Country Village. At this point, the colony is tightly controlled. We have our regulars that come to feed. We have not had evidence of kittens or pregnant females the last 2 years. Because of TNR intervention taken on by Councilor Armstrong's concerned neighbors, whose high school kids return bottles and use birthday money to care for these little creatures that are homeless through no fault of their own, Councilor Armstrong neighborhood is not overrun with feral cats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals like to please come address the council? Seeing none, let's continue.
Motion to remove item 7A from the table.
Seeing no readiness yet, let's continue.
Whereas at the regular meeting on November 1st, 2018, the Common Council approved the signing of a lease agreement with Carroll Rental Party Plus to hold an event known as the 2019 Bridal Show in the Creighton Civic Center Arena area from Friday, April 26, 2019 through April 27, 2019. And whereas Lakeview Catering of Saranac Lake plans to cater the 2019 bridal show, including food and alcohol, resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council approves Lakeview Catering to provide food and alcohol during the 2019 bridal show. Insurance proof is required and alcohol will be served. Therefore, New York State liquor documentation is required.
Moved by Councilor Ansel, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Ansel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the Plattsburgh High School Community School Organization to use the auditorium on April 27, 2019 to host a live jazz performance with a catered dinner and dancing. Insurance proof is required and alcohol will be served. Therefore, New York State liquor documentation is required.
Moved by Counselor McFarland, second by Counselor Gibbs. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with Reynolds Boats Northern Bass Tournaments and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to host a bass tournament on August 10, 2019.
Moved by Counselor Moore, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion? And the public should know that this group has discussed these in length just before this meeting in their committee. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with FLW and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to host a TH Marine FLW Bass Fishing League event on July 13, 2019.
Moved by Counselor Ensel, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion?
Matt, do we have, are the dates where these will be going on, are those on the website, or is it, do we keep, have a database of what events are going on, when and where?
I know Tara keeps a calendar of the major events. I would have to check to see whether or not these particular ones are on the website.
Yes, they are. And they're also on the Adirondack Coast Bureau website.
Okay, good. I won't make that mistake again.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with East Coast Watercross LLC and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to hold an event July 27th through 28th, 2019. There will be an overtime cost of approximately $1,153 for ambulance and EMT staff.
Moved by Counselor Moore, second by Counselor Armstrong. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Whereas the Samuel
I'd like to
Beach-
waive a reading and move to resolution, please.
Second.
Moved by Counselor McFarland, second by Counselor Ensel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Discussion on the item itself.
Yes, I'm just going to, because there were some people that weren't able to attend the 4:30 meeting. I did meet with DBW. You can see their recommendation for the placement of this panel is just about where the pedestrian is, maybe a little further down from where that person is walking.
Above the trash can.
No. And the idea was, I thought it was a really good idea, that placement there would allow a person to read the panel and view the monument. So that was a really good recommendation. I appreciate them coming out last Monday when it was pretty icy to discuss the idea with me. And then they did come up with the estimate for installation and maintenance of being $1,000. So I really hope you support this idea. I think it's a way of kind of giving a fuller counting of what that monument represents. And I think it's long overdue.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the Plattsburgh Farmers and Crafters Market Group to manage the farmers market for the 2019 market season from May 11th through October 12th, 2019. Signed licenses, agreement, fee, and insurance proof is required.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, second by Counselor Ensel. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves Plattsburgh Bike Rodeo event on Saturday, May 17th, 2019 in the Durkee Street parking lot. They are requesting to block off 70 parking spaces from Friday, May 17th to 18th, 2019. Insurance certificate is required.
Moved by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion?
What is a bike rodeo?
You want me to stand?
Please.
So last year we held one at the town offices. It was an opportunity to get a lot of the bike community together. So the Adirondack Cycling Club, Maui North, town of Plattsburgh, city of Plattsburgh. We had a few different entities involved last year. And it's to provide education and also we aspire to get people on bikes, especially youth this year, on how basic maneuvers. We don't really have a bike culture here in Plattsburgh. We have people on the sidewalks, off the sidewalks. I used to work at the co-op and I watched somebody get nailed as they exited by a cyclist going down the hill. So I know there's a present need for teaching people how to be road ready when it comes to cycling.
Thank you.
I guess I just have a question.
Yeah.
In regard with the farmer's market, as far as having those 70 spots, if that works with them as far as.
I would talk.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, you're over there. I was like, where'd you go?
It works with us, it's no problem.
Thank you.
And DPW accommodates them each time. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
I'd like to hand down the reappointment of Commissioner of the Plattsburgh Housing Authority Board to Shirley O'Connell, effective April 6, 2019 through April 6, 2024. Moved by Counselor Moore, second by Counselor McFarland. Any discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
I'd also like to hand down the appointment of Commissioner of the Plattsburgh Housing Authority Board to Amy Bond, effective February 8, 2019 through April 6, 2020. This is a shorter term because she's rounding out a term. Moved by Counselor Armstrong, second by Counselor McFarland. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves $3,000 for animal rescue and welfare services to continue their services for feral cat control, rescue, and adoption efforts in the city of Plattsburgh, it being understood that this money is left over from the 2018 animal control budget 1351-4430.
Was there a slight amendment to this?
Yeah, we'll let him move first.
Okay, moved by Counselor McFarland, second by Counselor Gibbs.
Jumping off Counselor Ensel's comment regarding a need for written accountability, I'm going to suggest a amendment to this resolution. The language would come in at the end of the last sentence and just say that the council further authorizes the mayor to sign a contract with ARWS containing substantially the same terms as the now expired contract. Point is, this resolution doesn't reference a contract. We should have a contract in place if it is approved.
Is that acceptable to the first and second? Further discussion?
Counselor McFarland had asked that he be allowed to see the previous resolution. I have it right here if you'd like to see it, Patrick. And we can read it for the other members of the council if you'd like.
I don't see a need to, but if you'd like me to, I can.
Would anybody like to have me read the previous resolution?
No.
I don't think it's necessary.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong, I'm sorry, we don't need
Was there a vote on the
Oh,
amendment?
we have to
Vote on the amendment.
Oh.
Sorry, it was first and second. Vote on the amendment. All in favor?
That should be
Aye.
A roll call? Okay.
Is it roll call?
second, sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
And Counselor Ansel seconds. Roll call on amending the wording of the resolution?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Roll call on the amended resolution?
Counselor Armstrong?
No.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
No.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolved that in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves the 2019 street drive.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Ensel. Discussion. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves the city of Plattsburgh's Field Day event on the Oval Field on April 27th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Rain date May 11th. Alcohol will be served, therefore New York State liquor documentation is required.
Moved by Councilor Ensel, second by Councilor McFarland. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution authorizing
I'd like to waive a
formation-
reading and move to resolution, please.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by
Second.
Councilor Armstrong.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. A discussion on the item itself.
I would like to make a motion to amend, just a spelling mistake I see on the third paragraph up the bottom, resolve is spelled wrong, we need to add an L in there.
And I have a question, might require amendment. Would we be able to insert in the land bank properties prior to annual tax auction and also following an auction? I understand there's provision that an auction result that could be bid up by $1 more and securing it into the land bank.
So 2 resolutions to add the L and afterward prior say and or following.
I'm sorry, where is that amendment being added in?
I think it's in the same clause, the paragraph that you'd identified.
Could you repeat what the amendment is? The second one? I'm sorry.
Be resolved that this common council agrees to develop procedures whereby the land bank, once incorporated, can select city delinquent tax properties for land bank use prior to or following the annual tax auction. Any other discussion? Let's have a vote to accept these amendments first. Roll call.
Do we need a first and second?
How did we do?
Oh, first.
Councilor McFarland and Councilor Ensel. Roll call for the amendments only.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
And further discussion on the item itself. Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Are there any items for initial consideration? You've got a resolution here, but we'll treat that under new business, Councilor Armstrong, just a second, if that's all right.
Oh, sure.
Any resolutions for initial consideration?
I guess so.
Seeing none, new business, Councilor Armstrong.
Yes. I'd like to express my gratitude to Clinton County Tobacco-Free New York and Danielle and Myra in particular for helping me to work on this resolution to include electronic nicotine delivery systems, e-cigarettes, vaping, and hookahs into our existing ordinance restricting tobacco use on public property. I'd also like to thank Councilor Schneller for his help with this as well. I've got copies, and we would hope that the mayor would then set a hearing date for this resolution.
So you've introduced potential local law P2 for the year 2019, introduced February 7th, 2019, at the regular meeting of the Common Council. I'd like to announce a public hearing to be held on February 28th, 2019 at 5 p.m. in the Council Chambers, 41 City Hall Place, Plattsburgh, New York. And you've got in front of you local law amending and restating its entirety, Chapter 241, Section 5 of the City Code of the City of Plattsburgh. Thank you. Yeah, if there's copies for the public, then I'd like to see a copy of it as well. Is there any other new business or councilor reports?
I'll bring up, as far as new business, I have gotten a lot of emails, I assume other counselors have as well, regarding shoveling of sidewalks. And they seem to range on both sides, some, being that they're infirmed or of such an age that they can't shovel their sidewalks easily, others, complaining that people don't shovel their sidewalks when they're supposed to. I don't have a resolution for those problems, but I will note, is there, and for some questions I've had from constituents, is there a way to waive your requirement if you are infirmed or of
Yeah,
such an
but
age?
there's, that provision already exists, and I feel like I had a major bout of senioritis last week when Councilor Moore brought up the concerns of a resident regarding her obligation, considering the fact that she was disabled, I believe. And we wrote right into our local law provisions for appeal. There's appeal process. You can appeal either the citation you receive as a result of being in violation, and you can also appeal if you feel like you've wrongfully been charged with the cleanup by DPW. There, I had emailed that to you, maybe you missed that, but if we wouldn't mind those provisions being recirculated among the council so that we can all acquaint ourselves with the procedures, that's a good thing. Also, you can apply for a waiver if you are disabled or infirm. There's a form that you can fill out with the clerk's office, I believe. I don't know if it's available online. I think it should be, but is it? No, it should be made available online, I would think.
If I recall, I think you made a fillable copy and it was available online, but we'll
good.
check up on that.
Okay.
I should also mention that in our meeting on Monday that Councilor Moore, Chief Ritter and I had with the college, the issue of sidewalk and snow removal did come up, and we kind of posed the question, and I guess we would really have to look at the liability behind it, potentially to have clubs or fraternal organizations kind of be an angel committee where because they are required to do X amount of public service and community service, that potentially they might be on a list to help with shoveling in those situations of people who are infirmed or what have you. And I guess I need to address Richard and Dean about the possibility of that, or if there are liability issues involved with that.
I think,
As a they'd be volunteer.
I think if we left to Richard was gonna look into or see if there's an insurance rider versus a volunteer clause for these sorts of groups, so we'll get back to you.
Okay, but there seemed to be some interest on their part.
Terrific. Thank you.
I just had one
Speaking
other
of
thing.
snow removal, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, because I'm on to something else.
Oh, okay, speaking of snow removal, I was approached by a resident in my ward today who asked the question, if his property does not have the green space between the sidewalk and the street, in other words, if the sidewalk is right next to the street with no green space in between, who's responsible for plowing that?
There's a provision in
The city
in the
clears that.
code.
I was thinking there was,
And
but
I believe that there's a certain, I don't know, I can't recall right off the top of my head.
No, I have that situation with my own
But
property.
what
in
is
the
it?
city.
1 foot or less, and then we come and pick it up as we can get to it, along with the other cleanup areas.
Right,
this person claims he was.
1 foot or more, huh?
It's 1 foot or more.
Right.
This person claimed that he was fined for an unshoveled sidewalk, and I think in this case it would not be his responsibility
Right.
to do it.
So all he has to do is file an appeal.
With,
Well, it's with the No, with the
Depends
code
on type-
enforcement,
Depends
right?
on the type of appeal. Probably makes sense to re-release the press release that we sent out when we
Right.
adopted this code provision, because it laid out all these requirements.
Right.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel,
Good
but just
idea.
republicize it.
Excellent.
Should also mention in the wake of yesterday's weather that it's not just snow, but also ice.
It is
Well, actually,
snow and
I think
ice.
that it only applies to snow.
No, it's not.
Just
that's not-
snow, it
that's not
doesn't
true.
apply.
Applies to any precipitation event.
Is that right, Joe? That wasn't Joe's reading, maybe?
It's a snow event.
Treat it, doesn't
but
have to be
can't-
clear
It can't
necessarily.
include freezing rain or whatever, but it's an event that's declared by.
So in this case, when you wouldn't necessarily shovel it, you could treat it, and that would satisfy the provisions of the code.
So I think a concern is we had a melting event, so a lot of sidewalks filled up with water, which then subsequently froze. So some have argued that that's not a snow event or a ice rain event either. So Joe, where would that lie?
Well, if it's a snow or freezing rain event that's declared by the city, then that would fall under this law. But the warming up and then the thawing of the snow into the sidewalk, that's not covered by the law.
So this may be something we'll need to further address if the council wishes to do that.
Okay.
I just had one other thing I wanted to mention that Councilor Gibbs, Councilor Kelly, and myself had a tour of crypto mining facility at Imperial. I had forgotten about that. Ryan was very courteous and gave us a very nice tour of that, and it was very informative tour. Learned a lot. Thanks, Ryan.
And thanks for your work on a noise ordinance that we can expect soon, huh?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think Dean is
Right. Reviewing.
now. Yes.
Do you think that'll be ready for next week?
Should be.
Dude?
Dean says yes.
Okay.
Any further new business or council reports? Any further public comments on other issues of mutual concern?
Denise Nephew, 24 Smith. In 10 words or less, can you tell me what the local law P2 is of 2019? It certainly doesn't state anything. Right here. Thank you. Okay, I'll get it after. For the record.
Any other public comments? Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Alberto. I manage Elmore SPCA in Clinton County. I just wanted to say a few brief words about the cat population, the feral cat population. I know that it's already been addressed. Specifically, I'd like to talk about being impactful. How can we be impactful on the community that we're trying to reach? And a lot of that comes from transparency. And I think that the work that most of these groups, like ARWS, as well as individuals, like people like the lady from CN, like a lot of individuals, they spend a lot of their money, they spend a lot of their time working on this cat overpopulation problem. And I'm kind of not going to call it a feral population problem because I think we've established it's not feral. There's a lot of wild cats, but there's a lot of really nice cats that are out there that people are just abandoning or are born outside. I think that we do have to throw money at this through TNR. It is a really effective option. But I think what we're missing here, and I think what Dr. King, I don't presume to put words in her mouth, please, but I think what Dr. King was alluding to is it takes more than just a TNR initiative to be impactful in this situation. We must make people, including Elmore SPCA, including individuals, including organizations, accountable for not only what they do, but how they do it. Complete transparency is key. Any TNR program will tell you that. And I know that these ladies, I know that this organization is doing a great job. That's not the question, that's not what I'm saying. I really look forward to transparency, and I hope that through this contract, through these amendments that you've made, that there is more transparency, because I want to know the work they're doing, because I know they're doing great work. And I know that through that data, we'll be able to prove that there is a need and that TNR is impactful. But I also would like to address you folks. I'd like to make sure that you understand that your governance is required in this situation. We don't have packs of dogs running at large. We don't have packs of dogs because New York State mandates that we don't have packs of dogs. New York State now mandates that cats are property, and I can't stress that enough. Cats are property in New York State, whether they're feral, whether they're owned, whether they're nice, whether they're mean. And part of that, and I encapsulate everyone in that because it's everyone's responsibility at this point. But your responsibility is to give that governance, to create local laws, to make sure that the people who are abandoning these animals are accountable, that they don't do it again. And also, that the people who are caring for these animals are also accountable. I can give you stats from 2014 since I took over the books at Elmore to current date. I can tell you where the animals came from, I can tell you where they went. I can tell you how much money we spent. This is something that I am accountable for, and I enjoy being accountable to the public because I can say, this is where your money goes, this is what we do with it. I can do that, and I'd love to help these groups do that too. And I'm hoping that we can come together and create some sort of coalition because it's very obvious that the vets do care. Dr. Lambrinos, Dr. Kiley, our two mobile vets do amazing work, but so does Dr. King. So does Eagles Nest. So does Palmer's. So does Plattsburgh Animal Hospital. So does Champlain Valley. So does Dr. Hannah. And please forgive me if I forget any vet because they all offer discounted services to the community. They all have offered, hey, $30 a cat. Let's get this cat spayed or neutered. The problem is we don't have any colonies to manage. There are a few managed colonies. I know that the one behind the Newman Center is very well managed. There are a lot of individuals who manage colonies, but there's no accountability. We don't know what's happening. How can you make an informed decision without having any data to know what you're dealing with? How can you say there's a problem and measure that problem without any data? I've got data, because contrary to some statements, Elmore SPCA is impactful in Clinton County. We have taken in over 300 cats in 2018. 174 of those were feral or community cats. We've released TNR several cats. We have taken, I'll say, and this is low numbers, at least 20 cats to Vermont once a month for the last 5 years. 30% of those cats are ferals or community cats. People are doing their part. ARWS is doing their part, but they're not the only ones. I just want to make sure that we know that we have to work together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Colin, can I just say, thank you, Becky, I appreciate those comments and that Councilor Armstrong and I have been working with Dean, and we're anticipating possibly introducing some legislation next week that will do just that and make people responsible for their cats. In animals, period.
Thank you, thank you.
Mayor Reed, may I also speak?
Please.
I have here a copy of our previous contract with ARWS, and in it, it says the goal of this contract is to provide empirical data on the extent, number, and type of feral cat colonies in the city, and to reduce the number of feral cats, as well as any adverse impacts on health, safety, and welfare caused by these feral cats. It goes on to say that we would like ARWS to provide reports on a quarterly basis on the number that are trapped, neutered, and released or adopted. That information would be helpful, and I would hope that the $3,000 we have granted you, at least some of that can be used for developing statistics. And I think it would be wise to talk to this woman. Her ideas sound very good.
I'm sure they have the numbers. I know they have the numbers. I know that you guys are doing a great job. Absolutely.
Just
Publish them.
Just figure out a way to share them with us, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other closing public comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Gibbs. Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Edsel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming tonight.
See, so in addition to what they do to track communities, then as we did, ask them to report on the extent, number, and type of care
Here, I just read that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just wanted to make sure that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can
Because
have
I mean,
this.
I had said that and I,
You can have this.
okay, thank you. Hey, I'm sorry. I've been so busy. Yeah.
I haven't even seen Daniel.
Okay.
This is just, I know because we were talking about POS and stuff, and as I get stuff off the internet, there's a bunch of copies there if you want to pass it out.
All right.
It's been in my car and we can see because I'm unable to manage it.
Oh, okay.
But it's some good points there, but.
All right. I think I'll just ask Beth to put it in people's spot. There. Would you hand that out? Yeah, thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. That was easy peasy. Well, sorry for all the kind of bumps in the road regarding wording. Yeah. But when I talked to Dean, when I talked to Dean about it, he said, "Oh, this is stylistic," and I went, "Oh." There. So
I know at first I was writing my time rather than writing. Then the more I thought about it, I feel like everybody else thinks about lawyers. Messing stuff
that's
up.
right. That's right.
And I mentioned it to John.
I thought the person who signed here had to say
So thank you. I appreciate it.
Walk safely
These are
home.
special because they weren't requisitioned properly.
Is there actually a resolution that I get? I didn't know whether the.
Well, it'll be I mean, you know, you mean like a formal certified copy? I think you just, I can ask Beth and the clerk to provide you with a
Put you on the
copy.
spot by asking
I
about
don't,
overtime.
I don't know if it's like, gotta have a stamp on it or what. So, I'll bring that up tomorrow.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Sure, keep it in your file.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if the basic
Can you
program
tell
is
me?
one of the issues approved, then
Okay.
Me to tell you
All
how
right.
it's used.
Thank you, Kenny.